Yeah, I was at work and was doing case management services and stuff like that. And there was this gentleman that came in, and he was a very large man in every way that you could use the word large. Um, like dressed all in black, combat boots, kind of a vulgar t-shirt.
Mhm.
He had a cane and, like big old, like a leather vest that had like some
Biker
biker.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, real biker energy. And he had like the deepest voice like
Mm.
I've ever like seen actually on a person that wasn't fake. And I went to shake his hand when I met him, and like my entire hand like fit in his palm. And so just like real presence of a guy.
Yeah.
And, like went down, I sat down with him and like we started to talk. And, he expressed that he had a traumatic brain injury from time in combat. And he's like, I'm kind of an asshole. So I'm gonna say whatever I want and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Like very much that kind of personality. And there was like he was very off-putting
Mhm.
in every way. It
Yeah,
was
you can imagine the deep voice, the demeanor, the size, the wardrobe, and then,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
a TBI.
Yeah. And then he spent like the entire session just like talking and kind of going wherever his mind wanted to go.
Okay.
And it was very intense, like everything that he was sharing. And so I'm going through and I'm trying to make time to, get done what I need to get done. And I'm like still feeling that like that unsettledness of like talking to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And like as I was going through like like a part of it was just asking, difficult questions,
Hmm.
about past histories and things like that. And like as we kept talking, this guy, he started to just like piece together this life that was just the most heartbreaking life story I've heard from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like just like multiple lives that had died.
Wow.
Um, his children had died in a car crash on New Year's Eve,
Oh.
like recently too. And like he was in a lot of physical pain because he got injured in combat
Mhm.
and he had a really traumatic combat experience. And then his childhood was just god awful. And like he went through and he was piecing all this together. And like my heart just like started to like absolutely shatter and break talking to him.
I'm touched. I'm moved by listening to you because I can imagine other people who are just taking the intake and they're taking in the information and jotting it down. And you are allowing yourself to be permeated and impacted by what he was sharing. So I imagine you probably got a way more in-depth intake than he had probably given to anyone else or, in the past or would have given to anyone else who he wasn't visibly invested
Yeah.
what he's saying. And I just wanted to like name that for you of like, oh, what a service that you offered to this man. And he was probably able to go deeper and share more with you than he might have done with anyone else because you were letting yourself be impacted and
Mm.
by what you were hearing. You weren't just kind of like rote taking inventory, but you
Yeah.
were in it with him. I can feel it. I can see it on your face and I can feel it in your energy, even as you recap it. Like you were in it with him.
Mm. Yeah. There's even a point like I started to cry a little bit. And like I was worried about, showing emotion to like such like a tough man's man. And he was just like, no, that's okay. You feel what you gotta feel, you know.
Yeah.
And like, and so like I was very much invested in him. And I was trying to be in it with him, even though it was so much. It was so much. And like as we kept talking, like you're right, it was like I wanted to hear more. It
Yeah.
was like there was so much that he was carrying, and there was like, because deep sea diver, right? It was like he was obviously giving out those like little tiny signs of like, hey, I'm carrying something and I want to talk about it. He's like, there's those little invitations that you can catch on to where he's like, if you ask me about this, I'll tell you more. And like without saying it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And kind of about halfway through, like I just like I paused because, it was like I was getting a little bit overwhelmed. There was all this stuff going on. And then I just turned to him and I asked him, and I was like, "Hey, like, because he had been talking about his wife, his late wife, and who had died of cancer after like 15 years of marriage, and um, he was like, you could just tell that he had so much love for her, and that she meant everything to him, right?
Mhm.
And and so like I asked him, I was like, "Hey, I just got married, pretty recently. Um, like, what advice do you have for me?" Like just really open-ended. And he spent like the next hour just everything that he could think of, just dropping it all. And it was beautiful. Like the yeah, the way he viewed life and the way that he viewed his own pain was so gorgeous. It was like he had said at one point, he's like pain is in the world and it has to go somewhere. And if I can hold it all so that somebody like you doesn't have to, I always will. And like that's at the end of, this, like, hearing just like some of the hardest things I've ever heard anybody say, right? And and then he gave me like the specific marriage advice, and um from a gentleman who had lost like many people that he had loved very deeply. He like reiterated, he's like, don't take any of it for granted. He's like, you can and will lose people. And so every day is a gift, right? Like make sure that you just treasure the hell out of your wife. And this coming from like the biggest, toughest
Yeah,
looking guy.
this burliest man you've ever met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
then
what a gift for him. Like, I imagine people don't look at him and go, "What kind of advice do you have?" You know,
yeah,
what a gift for you to trust him like that and to like be hungry for his wisdom.
because he had a lot and you could tell. And like I told him that. I was like, like I can see that you got a lot of pain, that you're holding on to a lot. And like wisdom's hard earned. Like I want to know what you have. And
Yeah.
like he dropped it like from this like really weird, intense energy to like the like a sage, like an absolute saint, right? In no time flat.
Yeah.
And um and then as we wrapped up the meeting, right? And I was walking him out, and when we got to the lobby, he had a seizure and collapsed. And I don't know if I think he might have passed away.
Oh wow,
Um,
you don't get to follow up and know
it
what
was
happened. Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Got it.
at least for now,
Wow.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And
Wow. Mhm.
and it was already, even if he had gone home and everything was fine, right? That would have been like one of the biggest, like most meaningful conversations I'd ever had.
Mhm.
And then there was something about that that's like it was like he gave me this ginormous gift. He's like everything that he could, he gave it all to me. And like he was able to say everything that he needed to say. And I was there and I was able to listen to all of it. And I got to really appreciate it. And there's like a responsibility I almost feel where it's like now I'm like holding everything that he gave me, and it's really heavy. It's heavy to hold on to.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like I wouldn't have it any other way, right? And yeah, and I just know for a fact, like a year ago, I would not have had that conversation in that way.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
what do you think, what's different in you for you now than maybe last year that does enable you to not only be able to hold that conversation, but to welcome it and like, evoke it
Mm.
from people. What do you think? What's the difference?
It's like the image that comes to mind right away is like it's like a really big cup, and then every like through the process of going through and like doing all the circling and stuff like that, it's like you get down to the bottom of the cup, and then like but then the cup opens, and then it's an even bigger cup, and the bottom of that opens, and it's inside of an even bigger cup, and like the capacity to hold so much of whatever emotional life that you have going on inside. It's like that keeps expanding,
Expanding. Yeah.
and like going through and doing all the circling, it's like that keeps expanding this container, right? I'm
Yeah.
able to hold more and more.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're able to trust yourself more, so you're able to trust others more. You're able to
Yeah.
invite more from others because you trust yourself to hold it and to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think like, talking to that gentleman, it was like if that had been a year ago, my cup would have been too small. Like I would have just known instinctively, like I can't ask you the questions that you deserve to be asked because I'm not gonna be able to hold whatever answers you have. Right? I'll get overwhelmed. It'll drown me. But because I, been trying my hardest to like hold, my own containers and like other people's and like really pushing and expanding that, I had just barely enough room to hold, what he was sharing. And if it had been even just a little bit smaller, like I would have cracked.